Pearl, you want to send your encouragement to all of the students? Got your little pink tongue hanging out there, don't you? Hi, sis. Good girl. Okay, Pearl sends her best. So now we're going to talk about some other blood stain patterns. So last video we covered a couple of things to do with gunshots. God, I'm sorry, you guys. I'm sorry. I hope this isn't making you nauseous. Why can I not learn how to use a simple tripod? And it's because I'm of the boomer generation. That's the reason. Okay, so yesterday we covered things like the drawback effect. The big topic yesterday was cast-off spatter. So let me know if you have any questions about that. Seriously, what is my problem? I know you guys are laughing at me, but you know what? That's okay. I can take it. Okay, so today we're going to start with arterial spray spatter. And I know you guys have seen this. I know you know what I'm talking about if you have seen any type of horror movie. Because it's a really popular effect when you're looking at, serial killer movies or things like that. So arterial spray, the key is it's when a person is suffering an injury to either a main artery, like the carotid artery, which is in the neck, the femoral artery, which is in the leg, or the heart. And it's going to show a particular pattern because the victim is going to lose a lot of blood really fast because arteries are carrying blood under pressure. So every time the heart beats, basically you're going to see a large volume of blood. And if they're deposited on a surface that's vertical, like a wall, then you're gonna see, because it's such a large volume, you're gonna see dripping stains associated with that first impact of blood. Okay, so this is not real. This is a staged pattern. I can tell you because there's no way in heck that this person would be able to be conscious this long. So when I'm talking about arterial spurt, hold on, I grab my little pointer here. So you see each one of these big stains right here, like right there. All of those individual large puddles kind of blood refer to each time the heart is beating. And so the definition, the textbook definition of arterial spurt or arterial spray, it's sometimes called, is when blood exits the body under pressure because you're either hitting an artery or the heart directly. Normally, you're only going to see a few of these spurts because the person is losing a very large volume of blood and they're going to lose consciousness pretty fast. Okay, so in this case, it's not like, oh, I'm losing consciousness. Oh, I feel better. Oh, I lose consciousness again. Oh, I feel better. That's not a realistic pattern. Okay, this is an example where there was one large blow, and then this is one big arterial spurt here, and then the person went down. This is actually unrelated. This is another individual over here. So you can see it's a large volume of blood, and then gravity acts on it, and so you see a lot of times these drips or flows that are coming down. But that's an actual crime scene photo. Here's a more accurate representation. So this would be one deposit here, that's the heart beating, and then another one here, and another one here, and it's going down because the person is going down. They're losing consciousness. But then you can see there's such a large volume of blood that then gravity acts on it, and so you see these large drip stains as well. Okay, here's another example, and this is actually from a real case, but this, I'm not sure if this was a carotid artery, but there's a whole bunch of spurts, and then finally the person goes down. So the key is very large volumes of blood coming out of a person very quickly under pressure. Almost certainly this is usually a fatal injury, especially when you see a pattern like this. Simply the person's bleeding out because such a major vessel was severed. Okay, experated blood. This is another thing that you see in movies a lot. And what we tend to see in movies is that, of course, death is really romanticized. And as we learned in our death investigation section, yeah, that's not true. You know, the processes associated with death are not really pretty processes. They're natural. So expirated blood is kind of the same thing. The definition of expirated blood, and it relates to expiration, which just means that you're breathing out, mostly carbon dioxide. So it's a pattern created by blood that is expelled through the mouth and the nose, but the key is it's due to an internal injury. It's not blood that's dripping because that person was punched in the nose or they have a cut lip. It's actually blood that's coming out through the upper respiratory tract because that person has a pretty significant internal injury. And if the person's breathing really rapidly, you can potentially see, high velocity, expirated blood. Not like a gunshot wound, but they're going to be smaller and the drops will travel a little farther because they're breathing so rapidly. Or it can be low velocity, which means that it's more passive and you're going to have larger stains. One of the ways that you can tell, or there's actually two different ways that you can tell it's due to expirated blood, is the blood is going to mix with saliva and nasal secretions, and so it may be almost more pink in color than red. And also because it's coming out of the respiratory tract, a lot of times it will have actual bubbles in it. So it tells you that saliva, it's coming out of an airway because it has bubbles. So here's an example from I don't know if this is a Hallmark movie or whatever. This is, oh, I love you, I'm dying. That's not realistic, okay? That's not what expirated blood looks like. That's totally movies. This is an example of what it actually does look like. And so when you see it here, there's actually little bubbles in here. And that's how we can tell it's expirated blood because it's coming out of an airway. Okay, void patterns, these are actually kind of interesting. I have some examples I'm going to show you here. So a void is basically, it means that there was a person or there was something in the way of the blood spatter and the blood hit that, and then either the person or the object was taken away or the person walked away or was dragged away. And so you see a pattern of what was blocking the blood spatter. So the blood that's coming out during the actual event, it's deposited onto the object or the person. And when you look at the pattern, it can be very useful because it can provide you the size of the person who was in the way or the object that was in the way that was then removed. So it's kind of an example of evidence that's not there, but it can still help you with interpretations. Okay, so here's an example of a void pattern. Let me move this a little closer. So when you look here, we have a mattress over here. Obviously some big bloody event happened here, but so here is some type of strike that happened on the person, and it's not like, the blood is gonna go in just a nice straight line. What this means is that obviously something was there up to this height, so whether it was an end table, coffee table, TV, whatever, it's been removed, and so there would have been blood spatter on that particular object. Okay, here's another example, and this one, this is pretty bloody. Also, this is a perfect example of how, once again, if you have an inexperienced death investigator who doesn't know what they're looking at, they could look at a scene like this and be like, oh my God, this was a murder. This person was stabbed to death. They were beaten to death. This actually is a natural death. I know I've talked about a person suffering an esophageal hemorrhage due to being a long-term alcoholic, or what we can call an upper GI bleed. This was how this person died. And you can see an incredible volume of blood. But it actually was a natural death. The reason I show this photo is you can see the outline of the person who was there. So here's an arm, here's the torso. And so that's an example of a void pattern as well. Not criminal, but still a void pattern. Okay, so let me stop this video right here because we're almost at the 10-minute mark. I'm gonna get this uploaded and then we'll start in just a couple of minutes with contact transfer patterns. And I'll finish up the rest of PowerPoint too in the next video. Okay, thanks guys.